and welcome to Quirky Books with Katie. Recently, I talked about books that were worth all of their hype, and today I'm going to be talking about books that I feel like deserve more hype. Now, I tried to pick some books today that I feel like people don't know as much about. I mean, there's some other books that I could have added, but I feel like people kind of know about already. And some of these books are my favorites, and then some are just others that are really good that I think more people should definitely read. First book I'm going to be talking about is Star-Crossed by Josephine Angelini. This is a series about Greek mythology, so I think it's for fans of Percy Jackson. It is different, though, because it does have a lot more of a romance aspect to it. And this series is amazing. The last book just came out. Was not a fan of the last book, but the series is still really great. One of my favorite things about this series is definitely the romance aspect, but it does still have the action adventure feel of Percy Jackson and other books like that. Now, this book has been going around the booktube community a little bit more recently, and I'm glad to see that more people have been reading it and talking about it. Next, we have Grave Mercy by Robin Lefevre. This book is different from like anything else I've read before. I think this book takes place in 12th century England, and at this time they are worshiping the pagan gods, and there are different gods, and the main character, Ismay, is kind of flees her life, and she goes to the convent of Mortain, who is the god of death, and she kind of goes around and does his bidding. Now, what I really like about this book is, first of all, it's historical fiction. I feel like in YA there's not a lot of good historical fiction, and I really love the political aspect to this book. It doesn't just focus on the, fact that the girls are assassins. It also features on what is going on politically in England and France during this time period. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Now, this book is kind of talked about. I feel like it has some hype, but not a lot, because when this book came out, so many people were talking about it, and then when the second book came out, not as many people read it, myself included. I have it, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But this is a fantasy series set in Russia. The main character, Alina, is, how old is she? She's like probably 20, and her best friend Mal have kind of been just working and supporting each other through their whole lives, and it turns out that Alina is a Grisha, and in Russia, the Grisha are kind of they're these women who have all these powers, and they serve the ominous Darkling, who's evil, and everyone else likes but me. And Alina has to go off and live at the castle with the Darkling, and then she leaves Mal, and they kind of have to find their way back to each other, and Alina has to kind of see who she wants to help. Now, this book was so amazing, was so action-packed, main character is badass, and it was just a really great story, I thought. And I'm excited to read the second one, even though I've had it for like 3 months now and I haven't read it yet. So next we have The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. This book, out of all the ones on my list, is probably the one that's the most talked about. I feel like a lot of people have read this. And the great thing about this book is it's creepy. This book is about a girl named Mara Dyer, of course. You can tell that from the title. And Mara recently was involved in this freak accident. She went into this old, kind of decrepit hotel at night with her best friends and her boyfriend, and she blacks out, wakes up the next day, and all of them are dead except for her. Which is, as if that wasn't creepy enough, Mara moves to Florida, and while she's there, she starts seeing these visions, and she's basically thinks that she is going crazy. And then she meets Noah Shaw, who is this hot British guy, and he's kind of helping her piece together what's going on with her life, and he keeps telling her that she isn't crazy, but she thinks that she is. Now, this book is creepy. If you don't like horror stuff, this might not be the book for you. I mean, it's not too bad, but the first one's really good. It leaves off on this crazy cliffhanger, and then the second book is even creepier, even weirder, and then that leaves off on the mother of all cliffhangers. It's funny though, because all of the fans don't even really believe what happened. It's kind of like with the Agent Coulson from the Avengers movies. Like, if you deny what happens long enough, they'll change it. I feel like that's what the fandom kind of thinks. But I definitely recommend that series. It's very good. Next, I have The Day Before by Lisa Schroeder. This is a contemporary novel, and the unique thing about this book is it is told entirely in verse. There's maybe I don't know, 4 or 5 stanzas per page, and usually I'm not a fan of poetry. I'm really not. But I read this book because some people were talking about it, and it's just, what I loved about this book is it was simple and beautiful, and the author's writing is just gorgeous, and I feel like the writing really helps tell the story. And what's unique about this book is in some books there's insta-love. And even though this book takes place over the course of a day, you still feel like the two love interests do not have that instant love connection that some people do. You really do feel like they've fallen in love over the course of a day. Next, I have another contemporary, and that is Fixing Delilah by Sarah Auchler. Now, I love Sarah Auchler. She's my favorite contemporary writer besides Sarah Dessen, and I feel like most people have either read Bittersweet or 20 Boy Summer by her, but I feel like they haven't read this one or her most recent one, The Book of Broken Hearts, both of which are fabulous. This is about a girl named Delilah, and she finds out that her estranged grandmother has just died, so she goes up to her grandmother's house to kind of finish what she started and get some closure, and she finds out all this stuff about herself and her family. The next book is probably the book on this list that I've read most recently, and that is The Program by Suzanne Young. This is a futuristic dystopian, and in this world, suicide is a teen epidemic, and if you show any signs that you want to kill yourself, you get locked up and sent off to this program where all of your memories are wiped, and you basically become a shell of yourself. Now, this is one of those dystopians where you think, wow, the society must be really messed up to think that this is an issue. And it kind of did remind me of Delirium, but I still liked it. And the great thing about this book is definitely the relationship between the two main characters, Sloane and James, because in this world, Sloane's brother committed suicide, and then when Sloane and James' best friend basically kills himself when he's being sent off to the program, they kind of find refuge in themselves, and James has to promise Sloane that they won't get taken and they have to stay strong, and then something bad happens, and this book was just a freaking emotional roller coaster, and the ending was cliffhangery. I don't know why I like books with cliffhanger endings. I don't know why I like to emotionally torture myself. But the last book is one of my all-time favorites. I love it so much. I probably talked about it so much that you guys probably hear it getting sick of me talk about it, but it is Unspoken by Sarah Rees Brennan. Now, a couple people I watch on BookTube have read this recently and have given it like a 1 star, so I feel bad because I tell people to read this and they don't like it, but I really like it. This book takes place in England, and it is about this girl named Cammie, and ever since Cammie was younger, she's had this voice inside her head that she's talked to, and at first she thought she was crazy, but all through the years, there's this one guy that she just talks to in her head, and at the start of the novel, the mysterious Lindburn family has moved back to the town of Surrey in the Vale, and who moves back but Cammie's imaginary friend? Turns out he's actually real. So in this book, they kind of have to deal with the fact that the person that you talk to inside your head is actually a real person. The best thing about this book is definitely, well, it's funny. There's a lot of hilarious lines, and it is very emotional too. Leaves off in a big cliffhanger ending, but the next book comes out in like a little over a month, so I'm really excited for that. So let me know down below if you have read any of these books, or if there are any other books that aren't talked about that I should read. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you again soon.